Good morning. I'm Skip Reimer, Executive Director of Programs and Communications at the Milken Institute. I'll be your host this morning. For this round of presentations, the three presentations in this room this morning will focus on innovative approaches to funding biomedical research, especially at the early stages. We'll hear about crowdsourced prize competitions, a nonprofit biotech venture, and government helping connect industry with investors. Each presentation will be about 20 to 25 minutes. We'll have time for about 5 minutes of questions. There's a microphone right here. After that, we'll take a brief break between each of the three. So let's get right to it. Our first presentations is the Rare Genomics Institute crowdsourced prize competitions. We have two presenters, Dr. Jimmy Lin, who is founder and president of the Rare Genomics Institute, and Kevin Lustig, who is president and CEO of the Assay Depot. So, Dr. Lin, I think you're going to start, correct?
Well, thank you. We're going to just get right into it. Rare Genomics Institute, we're a young startup, year and a half old, but what we exist is to help the rest of the 7,000 rare diseases that people aren't studying, that don't have foundations for, that don't have NIH grants, helping them. What do these families do? So I'll tell quickly about what we do in general, and then we'll talk about specifically how we are able to sort of raise almost a sort of $750,000 of a prize competition without being a startup. So the first thing is we do research on a micro level as well as a macro level. So we help patients one at a time. This is one of our patients, Maya. What we've been able to do for individual patients and families that come to us, we bring in all the necessary components for them to basically run like a virtual biotech or a research project from their kitchen table. So how do we do this? We do this by providing them three things that are necessary for them to help. First of all, for Maya, what she needed was a diagnosis. So we gave her access to sequencing capacity. That's a picture of a sequencer. We actually gave her access also for a family to sort of top research institutions. We're partnering with 18 different research institutions who are willing to run these individual projects for these families. And lastly, we actually help them as well figure out ways to fund and access to capital. Many of these families, aren't independently wealthy, are able just to pay for it. So what we've been able to build is an online fundraising platform. It's crowdfunding. So then they can put their sites online, and then friends and family, $5 here, $10 there. and you'll be amazed at what kind of research we're able to do from even just sort of these small amounts from family and friends. So using these three components, we're able to basically create these mini research projects less than $10,000. And right now we're doing mostly work in genomics, so sequencing these families. For Maya, that I show here, we were actually able to find a brand new gene that hasn't been identified in scientific literature. So this is really exciting, right? So for the 7,000 diseases, most of them which are not being studied, if we are able to help the families to be able to do their own studies from the bottom up, what amazing things if we can see these millions of people doing it from a bottom-up method, and to connect with research institutions, to connect with corporate partners, to become a real amazing force. And we've seen how democratization has really made an impact on the internet for all sorts, for e-commerce, for publishing, and we really think that this model could be a very, very powerful force if we equip the patients to do these sort of what we call nonprofits in a box for individual families to be able to do this. So this is what we do on a micro scale. But we are also realizing that on a macro scale, the whole system also needs to change as well. And more sort of funding dollars are needed to sort of spur on rare diseases and for researchers to think about rare diseases. And for that, we think about what are ways that we can have impact there as well. Think about ways. And the sort of the area of sort of crowdsourced in terms of using competition is not something new. For example, right, Netflix has been able to do these competitions. People have algorithms to see what recommendation engine, and very successful. Their entire companies. Kaggle, Innocentive, which is actually here, has their entire business model built on competitions. But our thought is, as a small startup nonprofit run by volunteers, are we able to sort of pull this off and what it takes to pull it off? And this is our experience. So for those who are in small nonprofits or in similar circumstances, we were able to do this with almost sort of very little in terms of what we have in terms of just volunteers and startup, but we were able to sort of achieve, we think, pretty big impact. So this is our experience. So we're going to talk about two specific challenges. I'm going to talk about the first one, and then Kevin's going to talk about the second one that we partner with Assay Depot on. The first one is called the Clinical Exome Challenge. So what we did is we partnered mostly with Washington University in St. Louis, where I also am a faculty there, to think about ways to catalyze rare disease research. And what Washington University in St. Louis has really been pioneering is being able to take next generation sequencing into the clinic. So the discussion then is, what if we are able to sort of offer this to really spur on rare disease research? So this is sort of a quick, sort of a simplified pipeline. The first thing is sort of thinking about sort of strategy, specifically what would be a win-win, right? We're a small startup, but then there's things that the university at WashU are specifically wanting to do, to see this technology be sort of used for good, for philanthropic purposes, but also for people to know, at WashU is sort of being a leader in this field. So we really sort of sat down and sort of plan those out. And we also specifically think about what would be a good day to do it. So we ended up sort of partnering with a lot of the umbrella disease advocacy groups and announcing it on Rare Disease Day. And it was sort of, we're able to get some traction there. The next thing is thinking about strategy then is sponsorship. How are we going to get all the different partners involved, especially since, we don't have the capital to be able to do it ourselves. And we were able to find a lot of different sponsorships. And in our second sort of competition, we have even more, but it's not only sort of WashU and Rare Genomics, but partnering with disease advocacy groups, with reagent providers, with media groups, media partners to get the word out. And finding this was actually, sort of very important to our success. Then is getting the word out, right? You can get all the best prizes in the world, and if you have nobody applying for it, that's sort of not the goal. And for publicity, I have sort of been fortunate of sort of being a TED fellow and being able to sort of announce this at TED. But then also being picked up to talking a lot about different reporters and spending actually a lot of work, emailing and discussing and saying that how much sort of impact that this potentially will be able to provide. So in terms of sort of setting a competition, planning even this publicity, launching with Rare Disease Day was actually very important for us to get the word out because, we're not the Broad Institute, or we're not, it's a major, giving millions of dollars away. And as a small nonprofit, this is how we're able to sort of leverage. And of course, everybody talks about social media, and this is actually very important for us because for our population, the patient advocates, the parents, are the ones that's really, really excited and driving this. And being able to sort of spread the word through that has been, very important, especially with our, advocacy partner. They have a page with, 30,000 likes, and getting that word out has been very, very important. And it's sort of, the patients are, the families are the ones that really been able to, get this word out for us. Then coming to the applications, and this is sort of the nitty-gritty details of it. And we were actually really excited. We were able to get 60 very quality applications, and we have very similar to sort of NIH sort of processes. First, there's a letter of intent, and then we invited 15 back for really sort of full applications there. And I'll sort of specifically talk about why this two-stage that we designed, because we want people to have sort of early, easy on-ramp. And we want to actually usher and help them think through these problems, because a lot of these applications came from disease advocacy groups that potentially may not have large scientific advisory boards, because we're really wanting to help the smaller nonprofits for rare diseases and be able to take advantage of this. So then the selection. And selection was, because we partner with Washington University in St. Louis, we were able to have a great sort of group of professors and researchers being able to select for that. And in our subsequent competition that Kevin's talked about, figuring out how that selection process was very important for us as well. And then lastly, sort of the announcement, which we haven't announced yet, but we've ended up selecting 4 really amazing projects that we're actually really hopeful that we'll be able to find causes for 4 rare diseases out of this. So this was sort of a simplified process, but we were pretty proud of ourselves being able to go from nothing to be able to give this $250,000 out and potentially funding discovering the causes of 4 rare diseases. And right now, these samples are being sequenced as we speak. And this is Maggie working in the lab at WashU, and we're looking at the sequence, and things are looking to be very, very promising. So now I'll have Kevin talk about our second challenge.
Thank you, Jimmy. All right, well, let me start out by stating the obvious. Curing rare diseases is very difficult. And this is not because the science behind rare diseases is more complex than common diseases. It's because there's very little profit to be had in rare disease research. The pharmaceutical industry, with a few notable exceptions, is not very interested in spending billions of dollars to develop treatments for hundreds of patients. It's really a financial decision that makes quite a bit of sense. And so that's why my company, Assay Depot, teamed up with Jimmy and the Rare Genomics Institute to sponsor a rare disease challenge. We really wanted to explore a new model for rare disease research that does not involve the pharmaceutical industry, but that does involve almost every other stakeholder. The nonprofit organizations, the patients, the advocacy groups, and research vendors in particular. And about 2,200 years ago, Archimedes said, "Give me a long enough lever and a fulcrum upon which to place it, and I will move the world." And that's exactly what we're trying to do with the Rare Disease Challenge. We know it's incredibly difficult, but we know it's also incredibly important. And what we're trying to do is really create that lever that can really change how rare disease is studied. Well, let's face it, we don't have billions of dollars of resources. We don't even have millions of dollars. We really need to focus on community and ingenuity. And lucky for us, over the past 5 years, there have been a wide variety of online tools, research tools, that are available to anyone, mostly